Hello and welcome to PhD Hard Talk. My name is Noma Mguni. Thank you so much for your time. I am so excited to talk to you about your research. Could you please introduce yourself, your university, and your research title, please?
Sure. My name is Kiegan Lloyd. I'm a doctoral student in educational foundations in the College of Education at the University of Saskatchewan, and that's in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. First year student. My dissertation is tentatively titled Occult Pedagogies and Alternative Learning Spaces.
Oh, exciting. I can't wait to get into that. But first question, why did you apply for a PhD?
Well, I applied for a PhD because ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to do graduate work. I didn't know I know it sounds a bit weird, but I always wanted to do some kind of PhD and become a doctor. I always had this romanticized ideal of what it meant to be a doctor. I'll be like, Dr. Kiegan Elliott Lloyd. And part of that was because of my dad. He has graduate degrees in physics. And so when I was a little kid, I would just go I was snooping through my dad's stuff, and I would see his thesis, and it was really exciting and motivating to see his work, even though I still don't know anything about physics, but it was nice to just dream. It was nice to just um to acknowledge and just think of my dad. And so ever since I was a little kid, I wanted to be like him. And so it wasn't until I started high school. My dad's a high school teacher. He just retired after 35 years. And so he was a physics teacher at a high school in the city. And I always wanted to be like dad, and I had to reconcile the fact that, well, I'm not going to be like dad. I only have a grade 11 math. And so I got a 50% in bio 30. So science isn't really for me. And so I had to grapple with that. It was really difficult. But long story short, it was in first year university, that I knew that school or university doctoral studies would be for me. And yeah, I wanted to do a PhD, I guess, because it was a lifelong dream.
No, I love that. And I think for most of us, it's usually that it's the doctor title, isn't it? You just think about it and you hallucinate, and you get so excited. So it's the same for me. And in regards to the PhD, then, in your opinion, what are the benefits of having a PhD?
Well, I think there's lots of benefits, but I also think there's some risks and weaknesses to that. But I think the biggest benefit is self-confidence. That's kind of what I've been learning throughout my master's degree. After finishing that degree, I feel more, and I maybe this is just a feeling that I have. But when I was an undergrad honors, like when I did my honors degree in history at Luther College at the University of Regina. I was a student and I was well known. People liked me. I felt comfortable talking in the sense that, like, if a professor asked for questions or asked students for participation, I was always willing to answer, to chime in and say what I had to say. But it wasn't until I finished my master's degree that I really felt more connected and more connected to faculty and people at the university, because I felt or I still feel that I've gone through similar turmoils and troubles and went through the same kind of have similar experiences as they did. And so I think that's one of the biggest, I think, strengths, or one of the biggest, I think, takeaways of doing the PhD for me. My apologies, I forget part of the question, but it's really exciting to do this PhD, and I think the biggest strength is, yeah, feeling more confident with yourself, not necessarily getting gratification from others. That's not really what I'm talking about. I'm talking about internally feeling more confident with I guess with me, with who I am, and knowing that I could do it, or I'm in the process of doing the PhD and getting it done. But I'm just saying, personally, knowing that you did something really challenging and having that similar experiences as others at university, that's a nice feeling. And so I think that's one of the biggest strengths or the biggest excitements I have to why I wanted to do a PhD.
No, I love that. I guess when you were applying then, what are the three things that you wish you had considered when applying for a PhD?
I guess the first one would be don't necessarily pigeonhole myself in a topic and emailing, cold calling, whatever, cold emailing faculty with your really narrow topic. Because what happens, I did this happened to me is I got accepted into different universities in Canada, I guess, for topics, but I sent way more emails than the ones that I got accept. Like I
Hmm.
sent way more emails to faculty than I received support and faculty encouragement. So, and that was because I sent emails that were really with a very narrow topic. And I guess how the email came across, it seemed like the faculty thought that that's the only topic I wanted to study. And so it was easier for them to say, sorry, Kiegan, it's just not in my wheelhouse. I'm really excited for you to do a PhD, but just unfortunately, I can't be your supervisor. So that's one suggestion that or one thing I wish I knew was not really having a really defined, narrow topic. And I guess really quick, the reason why I did that in arts and humanities, and social sciences for that matter, but particularly in the humanities, it's really important. And lots of the applications in these subjects ask students to provide some kind of research proposal or a very short, high level version of a proposal that you would send off to a faculty member or attached it in your application for doctoral or graduate level studies. So that's why I sent those emails. But anyways, that's one. Second one would be um, a second would be not necessarily, yeah, it's similar to the first, but not necessarily, but not mass emailing people in the same department, uh, or not necessarily mass emailing, but I guess putting more personalization or making the emails more personalized in the email drafts that you're about to, or in the emails you send to faculty members, particularly in the same department, spice them up a bit, or I mean, make them a bit more personalized for the person or for the faculty you're wanting to perhaps work with. I noticed that that's not that was I did that a few times, like that mistake, and I'm sure from listening to other people and other friends and colleagues and people on YouTube and other stuff, that seems to be a similar, perhaps common mistake, or is sending cold emails to everybody and just changing the name and that's about it. So that was another mistake or another area that I wish I thought about before sending some of those emails to faculty for potential supervision. The third would be, I guess, um, I don't know. I guess those two for sure, but I guess the third would be don't let people discourage you. I guess that and I guess I wish I knew how tough it would be now. I guess in how much self pressure, but external pressure that I'm being dealing with or facing in my doctoral journey. And if I wish I knew that go like I knew there was going to be it was going to be hard, the program and that, but I felt that I guess back then when I was applying, I wish I knew and had more insight into how challenging it was going to be in terms of answering people's questions about like, oh, you're doing a PhD in education? Why? You're better than that, or not better, but you're like, why didn't you stay in history? You did an MA in history. Why don't you do PhD in history? And so I wasn't really prepared for some of those kind of not negative questions, but some of those questions that seem to imply that I'm better than education or education isn't good enough for me or I'm not good enough for education or whatever. So I guess that's kind of more abstract kind of answer to the three-part answer. But yeah, that's it.
No, I think, the reality is we have love lenses, don't we, when we're applying?
Hmm.
And we often have an oversight in terms of what our support bubble views that to be. I think my biggest trigger, to be honest, is when are you finishing your PhD? Because I'm thinking I applied by myself. I went through the rejections by myself. I cried. I laughed and I told myself it's going to be a-okay when it wasn't because I really wanted this thing and no one would give it to me. And now you've got the audacity to say I'm stagnant. Where do you get this from? Who are you? But then that's rude, right?
Yeah.
But that's the actual reality in terms of what we go through as PhDs. I guess the next question then is where do you see yourself in 5 years? Because you've just started the journey.
Oh, is just an exciting question. Well, my supervisor, Dr. Lynn Lemisko, she's a full professor in the College of Education. She's about to retire,
Oh.
allegedly, but she took another 5-year contract as the department head of the Department of Ed Foundations, and so I'm with her at least. She and I think we can get this PhD done in 3 years. I know in England and other places around the world, PhDs could take up to might take 3 years. Some programs are longer and maybe shorter. But usually in North America, or at least in Canada, PhDs, the time frame is quite wide. But so Dad and others say, well, you'll finish when you finish. But
I like that.
our goal is Lynn and my Lynn and I, our goal is to get the PhD done in 3 years. And so my plan or my 5-year plan is to not necessarily pump out quality over quantity, but
That's
my
the
plan
point.
is to publish several papers and well, I like to get them in the journals of the ones I really want to get into, and publish a book and do an edited collection. Again, in arts and humanities, yeah, publishing in journals is really well. I guess publishing in general is really important, but in the humanities, yeah, there seems to be a premium, like a, a disciplinary kind of premium in 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 getting in journals that are top ranked or tier one journals. And so my plan, Lynn and I, our goal is to publish a few articles, or I will publish a few articles and publish a book, or try to get a book done in that time frame, and perhaps do an edited collection. And I've been doing a really good job. Well, maybe, but I've been working hard on making more connections in the occult,
Mhm.
esoteric communities. And so I have a new Instagram account that am using, and I'm posting some of my material there and making some really cool posts using Adobe software. But anyways, so the point I'm saying there is that I've been making a lot of connections with people, and so we might actually do an edited collection on this area of interest of mine. And now I'm in the process. I talked to a publisher, Brill. I don't know if you've heard Brill. It's a really strong publishing company, it's based in Amsterdam, the Netherlands. Um, it's been around since 1600 or something like that. It's been around for a long time. But and long story short, I've talked to a senior editor with that company, and they are excited and seem interested in me sending a proposal. So edited book proposals. That's what we're doing. So I'm looking for people interested in being collaborators or contributors to the book. And then try to get a professorship. That's really important. I'm trying to work my butt off to make my work more accessible, not only because I want a job, but because I think deep down it's really important that whatever work that we do or what I do, I need it to make it accessible for everybody. Be, I don't want to be a scholar that is just teaching and writing and researching in like a vacuum or in a bubble that only friends and colleagues in the same discipline read and learn about. I want my work to be more broad and more out there for everybody to learn. Yeah, thanks so much for the question.
Yeah, I love that. I think, one thing, going back to the analogy that I use, which is the love lenses, when you start your PhD, you've got a plan. But I'm going to say this, make sure your plan's a bit flexible because things happen. And I like what your dad said, which is, you will finish when you finish. So please have that flexibility, because I won't want you to go through depression when your plan doesn't go according to plan. In terms of the PhD itself, everything else that you're doing is fab. Get yourself out there. We all want the professorship. So we're all, in the rat race, as one would call it. I guess the next question that I'll ask you is, in your opinion, what is the role of a supervisor during a PhD?
I guess the role of a supervisor is to be nurturing, to be caring, to be reflexive, but also um, and to be understanding, but also to be rigorous in in providing feedback and providing support. I mean, I guess it's really I've learned throughout my MA that whatever feedback and support you get from your supervisors is good. And even if those supervisors might not necessarily be as interactive with you as you hope, or as the student hopes, getting some feedback and support is better than nothing. And so I can talk to you about I guess in the question you asked, I guess I can tell you all the wish lists that I have about what a supervisor should or shouldn't be. But at the end of the day, I think it's really important that any doctoral student, including me, should have more open conversations with their supervisor. Again, if they feel comfortable in how their relationship is with each other, but being able to be reflexive and adaptable is really important. For instance, I'll be really quick. Lynn really graciously allowed me to change my topic, my dissertation focus. It was really nice of her. Maybe because she's retiring, who knows? But it's really, and she might not have any skin in the game. But she was really, really thoughtful and very kind in allowing me to switch my topic. And I want to tell you this quick little anecdote because it I think adds flavor to the answer to your question about what you think your supervisor should do in supporting you. But so originally my thesis or my dissertation topic was going to look at, and it was titled Pedagogy of Forgetfulness and the Value of Higher Education. And basically what I was going to do is try to come up with a theory, this pedagogy of forgetfulness, where government employee, so the provincial government, like the government of Saskatchewan in Canada, the provincial governments pay or fund the universities. And so I was going to look at how the government of Saskatchewan funds the universities in the province, in Saskatchewan. And I was kind of think of this theory that I was developing, that once bureaucrats, government administrators, and etc., and policymakers remove themselves from the university life, they perhaps slowly, potentially or not, lose touch of what it means to be a student. So they may perhaps make indecisive or make some negative decisions that will impact students because they're removed from their days of being a student. Anyway, so I changed my topic because I realized after the first half of the year, this past September to December, my first semester, that holy crap, this topic is not for me. And so I've been going to the archives, scanning a lot of detailed university budget documents, like annual reports, and I'm like, this is brutal. And so I thought to give the topic, at least the end of the semester, give it a benefit of the doubt and give it some time to think, like, if this topic is for me. But long story short, I felt that this topic, that topic on funding history wasn't for me. Lynn, and then I told Lynn, after I wasn't going to tell her, I was a bit anxious and kind of worried that she would say, sorry, Kiegan, occult history is not in my wheelhouse. You have to find a different supervisor. But she didn't. She was really excited about this newfound topic. And not only was she interested in letting me do this new topic, my whole supervisory committee is on board and really excited about this new direction. So I'm just saying that little story because I think it's really important to have the courage to talk to your supervisor when something's that's bothering you, and don't let it fester or foster up in you, because it's going to just make things worse for your mental health, your well-being. And no one wants, I've learned, No one wants to do a dissertation topic that they don't like or they hate. That's going to be brutal. And so I'm just really thankful to Lynn for letting me change my topic. And that's the advice or the little comment I would make here to answer your question on what supervisory and what your supervisor should do and what your relationship to your supervisor should look like. Sorry if that was a long-winded answer.
No, it wasn't. It actually links into the next question, which was going to be what made you want to research occults in terms of the research question, and new religious movements, basically. What was the interest since you've spoken to your supervisor and you've said, right, I want to change to this? What triggered that?
Well, so long story short, well, here's the story, but I did a master's in history, as I said a few times. I guess I'm still proud of that. But I did a master's in history, and I did it on.